Everybody make sure your microphones are silent, please, and we are diving in. We're taking a look today at Chapter 4, and my first question is going to be, what excites you as an employee when you go into your workplace? What excites you? Brad, what excites you when you go to work? What are some of the things that your management is doing to encourage you to give your best at work?
You talking about at my current job?
Yeah, any job.
No, we ain't gonna talk about my current job.
Okay. Do you have anything that has excited you in the past about coming to work and being involved? And
I mean, when we went to school, like, I felt like work a little bit, but you know what I'm saying? I used to like to come in there and work with my hands in the kitchen or whatnot. So. Right.
So what were the instructors at school doing that wanted you to come in and work with your hands and do things at school?
I mean, they motivated us, you know what I'm saying?
They motivated you. Cool.
They gave us knowledge. They had leadership qualities, you know. Said you did a thing, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah.
Right. So as a manager, remember, all of you need to remember, as a manager or a leader, we remember those two are kind of different, right? Make sure you know the differences between the two.
Yeah, I'm a leader. You know
we need, okay, make sure you silence your microphone when you're done talking, please. We need to remember that we have to motivate our employees. We have to encourage them to do their job and to want to do their job 150% for us, right? Are you in the business to lose money? Shake your head no if you, shake your head no. We're not in business to lose money, are we? We're in business to make money, correct? That's the point of having business. So on page 92, you need to look at some of the motivation concepts. There's actually two concepts to motivation. One of them is the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. He's saying that if your psychological need is met, and then if your safety, social esteem, and self-actualization is met, if you meet all of those criterias with your employees are going to want to work for you. They're going to perform for you. They're going to want to be better. They're going to be motivated, okay? So make sure you know these two models, because the other one is the Herzberg's two-factor theory. He believes that if you meet the motivation factors and the maintenance factors, things that motivate and things that don't motivate, then you're going to get your employees to work for you. So make sure you're understanding some of the differences. So if you go to your job and you feel like that your managers or your organization is taking care of this safety, they're taking care of you, they think you, they're making you feel like that you're important, you're valued, they're meeting your needs, then you want to work for them, right? You want to perform. And that's the bottom line of that whole scenario, is there's two thought processes, but it's the same outcome, how to motivate your employees, all right? So managers plan, all right, for motivation, and they develop motivation, and they maintain motivation through employee expectations, or they should. If you look there on page 95, right? What are some of your expectations on the job site? Y'all weigh in on that. When you go to a job, what do you expect from your job or your manager?
Proper training.
Perfect. What are some others?
An agenda.
Safe working environment, so that anytime you're actually trying to do a potentially hazardous job, then you either, one, have the knowledge to do so as safely as possible, or two, you have equipment that will actually help prevent any grievous injury.
Absolutely. What else? Somebody give me one more. Patrice, what are some of your employee expectations?
Can I have a moment? I'm not.
Sure. That's fine. Absolutely. Chateria, give me an employee expectation. When you go to work, what do you expect when you walk in the door?
I expect the manager to be managerly.
There you go. There you go. So if you look there on page 95, they have a whole list of what employees expect and expectations of employees. All right? As a manager, you expect your employee to demonstrate knowledge, demonstrate leadership, practice honesty. Didn't that fall under ethics in our last chapter, right? Practice moral behavior, practice fairness. We want to make sure our employees are being fair, right? So you can read through those. Now, motivation methods. There are several motivation methods located there on page 96. I want you to put a big bubble around those. Not that you need to know every one of them, but this is a way that you can create motivation and maintain motivation and plan for motivation in your employees, okay? You need to look at that. Now, acknowledging employees, all right? This is one of the motivation methods. And I think I have a star by this one in my book because I think this is important. We need to acknowledge when our employees are behaving in a professional manner. They're performing outstanding, they're displaying outstanding performance. We need to make sure we acknowledge them. We need to make sure we express appreciation. You know, how would y'all like it if I didn't say thank you so much for a job well done? Or I'm so glad you're here. I recognize the effort put in. So y'all need to make sure you're always expressing appreciation. That, sometimes I know some things that y'all haven't thought about. Did you know there are some people that never hear in their lifetime from their parents an encouraging word, job well done. I recognize that each time students come into my class. You know, some of these students, some of you guys may not even know what it feels like to hear a thank you or to hear an effort of appreciation or an encouragement. So it's important that we always share that in kindness. Remember, we talked about kindness as managers to our employees. If you see a job well done, you need to express a job well done. Agreed? Everybody give me a thumbs up if you agree with that. I mean, really, you need to. Thank you. What are some other ways that you can show appreciation or say thank you to an employee? Brad, what is another way that an employer can show appreciation or say thank you?
I mean, like at my job, we do have one manager. She's pretty good. Like after we do such a good job, she'll do like a pizza party for everybody.
Awesome. Yeah.
Like that, just small things. I mean, it ain't got to be nothing big. Like
right.
you said, thank you, or just showing gratitude, period. It ain't got to be nothing big.
Perfect. Absolutely. And it goes a long way, doesn't it? All right. So sharing information. Most employees, remember I talked about communication? We've talked about communication and marketing. Now we're talking about communication and management. Communication is valuable. It is important, and I can't express that enough. So employees they like knowing what's going on. You need to communicate. You need to show interest. If I came on here and I didn't show interest in what was going on in y'all's personal lives, that would make y'all feel devalued, wouldn't it? I don't care. I just want y'all to turn in assignments, and I'm not worried about what's going on in y'all's personal lives. I do want to know. I can't fix your problems, but as an instructor, I recognize that what's going on at home can affect your performance at school. And that's the same way in the job industry. If you don't know what's going on with your employees, you can't help them as much as you can if you do know what's going on. You can't empathize. Remember, we talked about the word empathize. You can't empathize or sympathize with maybe their daily lack of performance because they've got issues going on. So you need to show interest. You need to involve employees, all right? We need to make sure that we involve employees in what's going on. Again, we talked about the different management styles, the bureaucratic, democratic, autocratic, laissez-faire. It's still, I think, and personally, I think all businesses need to have a balance, and involving employees in the workplace, in my opinion, is very valuable. All right. So now there is an employee development process. Somebody already mentioned training, knowledge, things of that nature. A company should be investing in the development of their employees. We should want them to elevate either their education, their skills, their knowledge, whatever, and you can put a development process in place. Just like we set financial goals, business planning goals, we set marketing goals, you can set employee goals, okay? What are some of the things that you guys would like for your employees to invest in, whoever you're working for? Or let me rephrase that. Whose company right now that you're working for, whose company is investing in their future? Who's encouraging you to get a higher education? Don't call the name of your employer, but let me know. And if they're not, let me know that too. I am guessing nobody's in. Who is that?
Nah, they don't. I mean, they do, but they don't.
So they want you to get better, but they want you to keep. They want to keep you at a cheap pay rate, right?
No, they want you to do better, but they want you to do better for them.
There you go. There you go.
Yourself.
So
my last job had a lot of programs, not particularly for, everyone, but they had programs for nurses to go back to school, things like that. So they were investing in.
So they were investing. I know, like here at Goodwill, okay, if I wanted to go back to school, they'll pay for part of it. They encourage us to get a higher education. Now, some of the fears in businesses are this. I'm going to invest time, money, and energy in training you. What's going to keep you, what's going to stop you from going on and taking those skills to another job? That there's a fine line with that, right? So my thought process is, and what you should develop, if you're treating your employees fairly, and if you're involving them, communicating with them, giving them the opportunities and inspiring them, they're not wanting to go work for, if they're happy, bottom line, if they're happy with you, they're not going to look for another job, right? Just like when you guys open your own establishments, if your customers are happy with your food, your service, what you're providing, they're not going to look for another establishment, right? That you're it. You're in the door. You're solid. So those are some things to think about. You can look there on page 101. They actually have employee development programs where managers improve motivation when they help employees improve their job performance. You can look at that. It's establishing goals for them, help them develop methods for obtaining those goals, implementing a plan of action for them, all right? Evaluate their plan. These are things that you can do, okay? Managers can work with employees to plan and implement the employee development program. That's what this whole chart on page 101 is about. Focus on operation needs, then employee goals. Motivated employees help himself while benefiting the company. So if you motivate your employees and you encourage your employees, that benefits your organization, okay? Now, I'm not going to go through all these steps. I think you can read those yourself. Establish the goals. Remember, anytime we're setting goals, we need to have a measurable counterpart, right? We need to be able to measure those goals. All right. So make sure that you have measurable goals for your employees. All right. Again, let's see. Cross training. How many of you know what cross training is? You can give me a thumbs up. You know what cross training is? Latasha, tell me what cross training is.
When you're trained in more areas than one.
Absolutely. Bottom line. Cross-training is where, and I'll use me as an example. I'm a baking and pastry chef, bottom line. But I'm also cross-trained to teach management and marketing. Potentially international, we'll see. I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. But it's where your employer is training you to work in multiple areas, and that makes you more beneficial. The more you know, the more valuable you are, right? So make sure you know what cross-training is. You will see that down the road, all right? We're going to move on. Approve and implement the plan. I think you've got that. And then guess what? We need to celebrate your goals. We need to make sure that when you arrive and reach and obtain that goal, we need to be excited. As a manager or as an owner of a company, you need to be excited when your employee reaches those goals, okay? You need to be just as excited as they are and show that appreciation, all right? And then you got to maintain that success. What are you as an employer going to do to help that employee maintain that success? You're going to maybe give them, or I'm not going to tell you, y'all tell me. If you obtain a goal, what can I do as an employer to help you maintain that success? What are some of the things I could do to help you?
Pay raise.
Pay raise. That's at the top of my brain. If I get a higher level of education, I want more money, right? What's another one? There's another one I'm looking for. Gizmo, you got an idea?
You can use like incentives and stuff.
Use what?
You can use like incentives, like, you know, like if you do this, you can get like maybe like a couple of days off or something like that. I don't know.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Robert. So you can use incentives. That's another great way. There's one other thing in particular I'm looking for. It would come with a higher pay grade.
A promotion.
Promotion. Absolutely, right? Promotion. So if I have an employee, if I'm a manager or owner of an operation and I have an employee that excels to the next level, I'm going to give them a promotion. At least I'm going to give them a pay raise, right? And then I agree with Robert. Giving them some incentives to step up their game is going to be beneficial to your establishment. You follow the pattern, and that's really what this is about. It's encouraging and investing and motivating your employees. All right, now let's talk a little bit about managers' roles, okay? I want to back up. Let's talk about a positive workplace environment. To maintain positive workplace environment, you have to focus on your employees, right? You can't dismiss your employees are the backbone of your company. You cannot dismiss your employees. You cannot not focus on them. You're not going to be able to operate without your employees. Bottom line, there's no business that can operate without their employees, correct? Everybody agree with that? I agree. You got to maintain open communication. I've preached that since day one. You got to celebrate success, build teams. How important are teams in business? How would you feel if you went to work and you felt like you were the only one there, that you weren't part of the team? Do you feel like you're part of the team? Who am I going to call on? Gizmo, when you go to work, do you feel like you're part of a team, or do you feel like you're the only one that does anything? Gizmo, are you with me? All right, somebody else weigh in for me.
For me personally, I've got one individual that his ending time and my beginning time at work kind of overlap a little bit to make it where there's like 30 minutes or so before he's getting off and I'm just coming on. But he's been at the exchange now for over 10 years, has never shown any interest in cross-training. And at the same time, if there's even one job that I don't get to at the end of the day, he complains about it to the managers, and it makes it feel like, okay, I just ran out of time. I'm literally only got 6 hours in a day that I can work here right now.
Right.
So either one, you need to pick up the slack yourself, because you've got like 10 times the amount of experience I do, because I literally just passed my 1 year mark with the exchange.
Right.
And he still complains that stuff doesn't get done. So I'm like,
right.
Either do the job yourself and quit complaining, or find some time to be able to work with me and to show me how to be able to do something a little bit quicker so that I can still get to it.
There you go. So we all have experiences in our job place where sometimes we feel like we're not part of a team. And the reality of it is a team. Teamwork makes the dream work, right? It should be a team. When you're in the kitchen, if one person is falling short and their spoke falls off the wheel per se, that wheel quits turning. So, we'll get more into it later, but how you build your teams can be just as valuable as the individuals on that team. So we'll get into that later. And then it's promoting diversity and fairness. That's something that you've got to think about, fairness. I look at each of my students, all of you on here right now, and I judge you fairly in the sense of your work. I don't put one over the other. I look at timeliness the same, attendance the same, your projects the same, and you want that, right? You don't want me favoring or having a teacher's pet over another. You want everybody to be fair. So some things that you need to do, and this is going to fall into that. Have patience, all right? Again, everybody's got a life. Everybody's walk is different. We need to have patience. We need to make dedicated efforts as managers to involve and be a part of and promote our employees. We need to show genuine concern, all right? Not fake concern. People know when we're fake. And we need to set a positive example. I talked about that yesterday. If I was late to class every day, how can I get on to y'all for being late to class every day? So you need to make sure you look at that. Now, I want you to highlight those that have your books in front of you on page 107, ensuring a fair workplace. There is a harassment, a form of employment discrimination. It's called the Civil Rights Act of 1964, Age Discrimination Employment Act, ADEA of 1967, American Disability. I want you to highlight that whole section, all right? Those are legal acts designed to protect your employees, you and your employees. Sorry?
What page you say?
I am on page 107, ensuring a fair workplace. You need to highlight all those acts, okay? And in particular, make sure you highlight those. You're going to need to know some of those on your quiz. So if you're halfway paying attention to me right now, I need you to pay attention. You need to highlight those in your book. All right. Liability for harassment. An employer is automatically liable for harassment. Okay. Bottom line. That's all I'm going to say about that. As an employer over employees, you are automatically responsible. Actually, you can highlight that whole sentence. The employer is automatically liable for harassment by a manager that results in negative employment actions such as termination, failure to promote, hire, or loss of wages. So that is important to remember there. Sexual harassment. In today's society, and I mean, it's never, ever, 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 I want to stipulate that, never okay. But we know in a world past, people got away with it. But in today's society, with the whole Me Too movement and all of that kind of stuff, you're not going to get away with it. And it's never okay. Employers have a legal obligation to protect their employees from sexual harassment. Quid pro quo. Who can tell me what quid pro quo is? Anybody heard that term before? Yeah, Patrice, what is that?
Do this for me and I'll give you something else.
Absolutely. And guess what? You might get to something else and that person may get you to do it, but they still going to eventually get called out on it. That is not the way to climb the ladder. All right. Quid pro quo is doing something in exchange for something else. And bottom line, you sleep with me, I'll give you a pay raise. Or I'll give you a promotion. Or I'm going to overlook you for a promotion because you won't go out with me or whatever. I mean, it can be several scenarios. So with that being said, sexual harassment, and there's quid pro quo at the bottom. I kind of jumped the gun on that. You need to know what that quid pro quo is. All right. And Patrice summed it up. You do for me, I'll do for you. And a lot of managers or people in position will hold that over lower employees' heads. And guess what? If you're in that position, you need to quit that job and you need to go on down the road because that is not a position to be in, right? Not a position to be in. All right, hostile environment. You need to make sure you understand that. Hostile environment can be unfriendly interaction. And it says here, managers should encourage normal, friendly interactions and other social behaviors. So what is that? Again, normal, friendly interaction, non-offensive joking. Now, I know in the kitchen, and that's something that I had to grow used to because, you know, I'm not used to being in a major productive chef kitchen, right? Pastry kitchen's always a little bit different when you're in that savory side and the verbiage and some of the joking and things like that in certain environments. Construction field, I was around it in that field. It can be offensive, even to me as a bystander. So you got to remember that can be considered a hostile environment. You always got to be aware of your surroundings and whom else may be listening to your crude joke and take it offensively, right? Right? So keep that in mind. There should always be a zero tolerance in harassment policies. And then there's a way I want y'all to flip on over because you can read through this. I want to ask this question. What are some ways that we can prevent a hostile environment? Robert, do you got any suggestions there? How can we prevent a hostile environment?
I just think being professional at all times.
Do what?
Yeah. Being professional at all times.
Be a professional at all times. Absolutely. Who else has an idea? How can we prevent a hostile environment? Go ahead, Patrice.
You can post like posters on the wall to remind employees what's appropriate and what's not.
Perfect. How many of you have been in an environment that you thought was hostile? You want to share the story or just leave it at that?
For me, it was a case that one day in particular at my last job when I was working at Genghis Grill instead of the exchange here on base, I had left for the end of my shift one day, and then the next day I had off, but one of the managers scheduled me to come in and work the next morning. No one told me about it in advance, and no one called me after I had left to make sure that I knew that I was supposed to work the next morning. So I took my day off as I was originally scheduled because I just didn't know.
Correct.
So the very next day after my day off, I came back in and two of the grill cooks started trying to jump down my hindquarters because I wasn't there, and apparently they got into a bad rush, so they were apparently short-staffed. I told them, that's not my fault. No one told me about it. And by the time that it had, because I had checked the schedule right before I left for the day, there wasn't any change from my scheduled shift hours when I left that day. So it's a case of it was the management fault for not informing me that they needed me to cover a shift.
Right. So
and it wasn't very nice with what the cooks had done. I never said anything. I did inform management about it, but
you just
were not happy about it.
Right. Well, and again, that falls under what, guys? Lack of communication. We have to communicate with each other. Now, when you manage as a manager, we're in management. As a manager, you may have to fill out harassment reports, right? So we need to remember, you got to discuss the complaint with the person who reported it. Learn more about the situation, okay? You have to collect evidence. You can't just jump on board and start accusing without making sure you have the details. You have to assure the person, you have to ensure that the person who's reporting, that they're going to be kept confidential. You don't want to break that bond because then nobody's going to come and share with you if there's something going on in your kitchen or your establishment. And then you have to inform the employee about the complaint. So we're going to move on, okay? Leader as a coach, coaching process. I think y'all can read through that. Well, let me back up just a little bit. Remember, when you have issues that go on, here's some ways you can change that. You can change schedules so that these two employees aren't in the kitchen at the same time or on the job at the same time. You make sure you interview any witnesses. That's part of gathering details. And then this is what I almost forgot, and that's why I'm backing up. When you sit down to confront somebody about anything, you should always have a third party there, right? Always have a third party. So it doesn't roll around to he said, she said, all right? That can get you in trouble. All right, so now, leaders as a coach, coaching is not a one-time activity. That's all I'm going to say with that. All right, hopefully you've read this section. Coaching is an ongoing process. It's something that you do every day. You motivate, you encourage, you inspire, you teach, you guide. That's every day. You can't walk in and say, oh, job well done, keep doing what you're doing, and not go back in for who knows how long. It is an everyday process, and there actually is steps in the coaching process that you can review there. And there are some things you got to remember. There's some things, we call it throwing somebody under the bus, right? How would y'all like it if I threw you under the bus with your fellow students? All right? You have to be careful not to share other people's information with other people. As managers in particular, there is a thing called privacy. So you have to sometimes, even when you instruct or you're coaching, sometimes you need to do it in private, all right, as to not call that person out and set them up for ridicule. So you've got to think about things like that as well. And again, I'm going to hold it up. We're in management. So everything that I'm talking about is you as a manager interacting with your employees. Now, managing conflict, you can look at that on page 115. I'm not going to go through every one of these, but you can negotiate conflict, you can mediate conflict, and you can arbitrate conflict. Make sure this is on your quiz and final. Make sure you know the difference between those, please. Okay? Negotiation is negotiating between two people and reaching a goal, right? And mediation is where there's a third party. Arbitration means there's a third person that makes the final decision, bottom line. So make sure you know the difference between those, all right? Principles before personalities. Resolving employee conflict, you can read through those. And then there's steps to doing that. You got to, again, identify the concern, determine the facts, develop a resolution, communicate the resolution. These are some of the things that if you're going under arbitrary or if you're going under negotiation or mediation, these are things that are going to help you go through that process. Now, employee performance appraisals. How many of you have had performance appraisals on the job? Yeah. So what are some things they're looking at? So anybody can weigh in. What are some things they're looking at? How about you, LaTanya, on the job? Have you ever had a performance appraisal? LaTanya, you still here? Gizmo? All right, Krista, give me a performance appraisal.
Constantly, that's basically the, easiest thing to go to because they have those coachings or whatnot where they discuss things of that nature, what you need to do, things, your numbers, your stats as of that moment, what you want to work on.
Perfect. So they discuss past performance, they establish new goals, they discuss any job-related issues, and then they document your performance. So you can read through that. They have a sample of that. They have steps on holding one of these performance reviews, and then that finishes up Chapter 4. Let's quickly go through Chapter 5, and we'll call it closed. Leaders facilitate teamwork. Again, we're going to dive into teamwork because, again, teamwork makes dream work, right? One person can't tote the load. We have to have a team. So what is a team? A team is a group of people who work together to complete tasks or reach a common goal. The act of cooperating together is a team. We have to cooperate together. Like I said earlier, if one spoke falls off the wheel, the whole wheel goes awry. Let's say we're in a kitchen and it's lunch or dinner rush hour and the grill cook is lacking some sort of skill or knowledge and the whole dinner service ends up being an hour behind. That's not good, is it? Now, is just the grill cook on the hook for that? Absolutely not. The whole team is on the hook for that because that customer he has no idea who the grill cook is. That customer is looking at the restaurant as a whole, who in turn ends up being the GM, the owner, the staff, period, everybody. So teams are important. You can read through the advantages of a team, positive work environment, open communication channels, employee support system. It's kind of like being an only kid or a kid with brothers and sisters, right? If you're an only child, my son was an only child. He is an only child. He had no one to talk to when he was mad at mom and dad. No one to bounce things off of, to discuss things with. Unlike someone who has brothers and sisters. You can be mad at mom and dad, but you're going to go talk to your brother or sister about it, right? So same way in a team, you've got somebody to talk to. And then you've got workplace diversity. We all come in with different skills, different knowledge, different, we're diverse. We're diverse in many ways in the kitchen. So pitfalls of a team. Sometimes it takes forever to get a decision made because nobody wants to be the one on the hook if that decision goes bad, right? So a team being on a team can have a pitfall because it takes forever to get a decision made. Hopefully someone's going to step up and just take the reins with that. Mishandling team disagreements there, working efficiently, avoiding responsibilities. Those are some of the pitfalls of being on a team. Now, team member skills, adequate technical abilities, okay? There's 3 complementary types of skills that are needed for a successful team. Make sure you know those, all right? Mark it in your book. At the top of page 131, if you're not following along in your book, there are 3 complementing types of skills that are needed. These are important for a team to work, all right? You've got to have adequate technical abilities. You got to have problem-solving skills. When met with a problem, you got to be able to solve it, all right? And then interpersonal skills. We've got to be able to work as a team, to talk together as a team, to interact interpersonally as a team. Remember we talked about interpersonal relationships? Those are between me and you and maybe those in our little circle. This is my interpersonal team right here. I'm the leader. You guys are my students. We have an interpersonal communication. We talk outside of Eggers or outside of, not Eggers, but Helms, right? We're part of a bigger team, but we have an interpersonal team, all right? Now, employees are on many teams, all right? So you got to, I want you to read through those. I have that highlighted. Yes.
God damn it.
Yes, Krista. Oh, okay. Good. Tanya, were you trying to say something? No? Okay. Employees are on many teams. You got to look at that. You guys, as students, are on many teams. I'm not going to read through those, but you need to understand you're on many teams, all right? Types of teams. Make sure you understand your types of teams. Functional teams perform routine acts, okay? They're like the infrastructure. They're doing the same thing over and over, and that is the basis of that business. They're functional teams. Problem-solving teams. Those are teams that when there's a problem, they are set into play to help resolve those problems, develop a goal and measurable goals and activities to get that problem solved. And then self-directed teams. They're small groups of employees who manage mainly daily issues, all right? So make sure you know the difference there. I skipped over cross-functional. Cross-functional are from different departments that focus on solving problems. So make sure you look at that. If you want to, bubble, I love my little bubbles, exhibit 5.3, all right? Basic types of teams. Now, stages of team growth. When we did our pre-test, some of you missed that norming, storming, all of those, okay? Just giving you a heads up. So hopefully on the post-test, you'll have a better understanding. Stages of team growth. You need to make sure forming, all right? Forming is getting to know each other, learning what they have to do to reach an assigned goal, all right? That's the forming stage. You're coming together, you're getting to know each other's abilities, and then you're determining who's going to do what to reach the assigned goal. That is forming, okay? You're forming your team. Then storming, think of brainstorming. That's the stage where you start hashing out what's going on, and then your focus is becoming clearer, okay? This is also when you may have some conflicts because you'll have two ideas or two opinions of something. So make sure when you think of storming, think of brainstorming. This is when things become more clear. This is when you start, assessing and you start discussing how are you going to reach those goals. Norming are when you settle your differences, you start trusting each other, and you start coming to decision making, okay? Know the difference between storming and norming. People get those confused, all right? Storming, think of brainstorming. Norming is when you start coming to a normality, right? You start, putting things to rest, you're getting your thoughts in order, and you're focusing on your goals and what you're going to do to achieve them. Now, performing is putting that into action. Bottom line, perform action, right? Perform action. Think about that. It's when team members begin to depend on each other. They effectively analyze and solve problems together. You start performing resolutions. And then adjourning, bottom line. That's when you've done what you're going to do. You've called it, you're done, you've achieved your purpose, and you move on to your next task, right? So make sure you know those. You will see those on a test. I'm letting you know. Those will be on a test. And then you can put all those together, and I'm not going to read all that. If you look on page 135, they've got team feelings, team behavior, and the leadership styles. Now, I will tell you, this graph is important. You'll need to know your leadership styles that go along with the different stages of your team growth, okay? Stages of your team growth. Building effective teams, the principles, everyone has a role in a team, okay? When you build a team, you're usually as a manager or as an owner, you're building a team because of skills and abilities. You're not just throwing a bunch of people together, all right? So everyone has a role on that team. Now, the one thing you need to remember is the principles of team building. You need to communicate. Communication, again, is number one. How many times have I said that now? 100? I feel like it's been 100.
It's almost too many to count.
Huh?
It's almost too many to count.
Thank you. Yeah, it is. It is. I feel like I say that all the time, but that is the basis of everything, right, Brad? Basis of everything. You need to conduct team building exercises. If you guys were here, we would be doing a couple of team building exercises. Should I come up with one for y'all to do online? No? Okay. All right.
Okay.
Huh?
Not needed, Chef. Not needed.
Not needed. Everybody good, RJ. Good to hear. Yeah, RJ, good to hear from you. Or whoever just answered that. Understand and explain the role of a team, okay? And then effectively apply effective management skills. Now, focusing on team leaders, what are supervisors' jobs? Somebody tell me, what is a supervisor's job? Gizmo, are you back on here yet?
To supervise.
All right, but elaborate on that.
Is it to oversee?
Oversee? What else? What are some? Go ahead, Patrice.
To provide direction.
Correct. So those are some really great answers. They have to have interpersonal skills, right? I'm a supervisor. I'm supervising this class. I have to be able to talk to you guys. What if I was shy and quiet? Would I be an effective supervisor? No. I have to be able to have interpersonal skills. I have to be able to talk to you guys, be respectful, inspire you, encourage you, set you on the right path, let you know when you're not doing what you're supposed to do. And I'm not talking to anybody in particular. but that is my job. If the shoe fits, wear it though, okay? That is my job. I have to allow you guys to make decisions. Look, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. I can encourage and inspire you to do your schoolwork, but ultimately, that decision's up to you. If you want to pass, you're going to do it. If you want to fail, you're not. No matter how many times I send you an email, that decision's up to you to follow through. I have to allow you to contribute, okay? I have listened to some of you behind the scenes giving me feedback on some of the pitfalls of being online or some of the things that we did last class that wasn't effective. So, you know, that has come into play. I have to request comments from you guys on improvements. That's what I just said, right? If I didn't solicit feedback from you guys, I wouldn't know what's working, what's not working, or how to get feedback. And then I have to link you with other managers to gain commitment to project and access to resources and goals, right? And then maximize the moral levels, minimize unnecessary turnover. You don't want to have to replace people on a team and bring them up to speed, especially in a kitchen. All right. When you get a team that clicks in the kitchen, they're able to put out that food like that, and they work together like a dance, right? How many of you work in a kitchen right now? Any of y'all working in a kitchen? How many of you have experience in a kitchen? So you've seen what I'm talking about, right, Brad? Where when everybody gets along and everybody has the right skill set, it flows like water, doesn't it? And when it doesn't, it's not fun, is it?
Nah, you get the skill screen. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's move on from that. Team management challenges. Y'all can look at that. This would be from, again, a manager standpoint. You have poor management style. You're not managing the way you should. If you have high employee turnover, that makes it more difficult. All right. And then a focus on relationships instead of goals. Guess what? I can be your friend, but I'm your instructor first. All right. Business before pleasure, bottom line. All right. Now, conflict challenges. They give you some conflict ways that you can strategize and manage conflict. That is direct approach, bargaining, enforcement of team rules, retreat, conflict management as a team. Now, that means let the team call someone out. Because I guarantee you, if somebody's not toting their load per se, somebody's going to call them out, right? Hey, dude, why aren't you doing what you're supposed to? Sometimes your team will correct the problem. The manager doesn't have to step in and do that. So keep that in mind. With that, again, we're talking about team goals. We went through the SMART goals already. They're going through them again. You've got your specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. Make sure you know that SMART acronym, right? Make sure you know what all of those stand for. And then effective teams develop 3 types of goals: team building goals, information goals, and work-related goals. You can read through that. Now I want to go over, because we're not going to go through managing team projects. I think y'all can read through that, because again, planning, implementing, evaluating. And then that brings us to the end of chapter 5. Does anybody have any questions on chapter 4 or 5? Anybody? What's due today? Somebody weigh in and tell me what is due today. Anybody looking at their syllabus in front of them?
I see the chapter 4 and 5 review. You're learning in the journal 4 and the chapter 4 daily case study question.
That is correct. Well, we're on day 4 today. That is correct. So absolutely. I will be, just reminder, I will be grading homework 1. So my advice to you, hang on, Brad. My advice to you in the next hour, if you have not turned in Review Your Learning 1 and 2, you get that to me ASAP, okay? So that I can grade those. Those should already be turned in to me, but if you have not done them, I need you to do them. Yes, Bradley?
You said we on day 4. Y'all in the syllabus or y'all on Moodle?
Syllabus, you use the syllabus to do Moodle. Today is day 4 of our, today's day 3, guys. We're not on day 4.
Yeah, why we on day 3?
Today is day 3.
That was my bad, sorry.
We're on day 3. Thank you, Bradley, for pointing that out. So, again, today, though, is still the same. Today, you should by the end of today, submit chapter 2 and 3. Today is also the day I grade homework 1. You should be submitting journal 3, your application exercise, and answering day 3 case study question. We're on day 3. Thank you, Bradley, for pointing that out. Yes, Patrice. Turn your mic on.
How is the homework grade review for learning 1 and 2 today, but 2 and 3 is due? I'm kind of confused. I'm sorry.
Well, 2 and 3 is due today. So bouncing on what was told, I will be grading that tomorrow.
Okay.
That was so you should turn in 2 and 3 by midnight tonight. Tomorrow when I come in, I will grade 1 and 2. And they will be averaged together to give you homework 1 grade. So again, I still stand by. If you have not turned in your Review Your Learning for chapter 1, and if you are not planning on turning in 2 and 3 today, you better at least turn in 2, because I will be grading for homework tomorrow. Yes, Brad.
Can we talk about the... Oh, my bad.
I just want to let you know I did my journal, but I kind of like put them together into one. I didn't know like we were supposed to separate them, the 1 and 2.
Okay, that is fine. As long as, did you define between the 2, journal 1, journal 2, but put it on the same page? Or you just have 1 and 2 combined together?
Yeah.
Like okay, I'll look at that. Okay, I'll look at that. Hey guys, before we don't leave, I'm going to turn off the recording because I think this is more private class time. So y'all hang tight with